Hey guys, I just wanted to do a video demonstration of Marqs digital AV HDMI board for the CPS2. If you didn't see my previous video, I'll put a link in the description if you actually want to see what the board looks like in its current state. It's still a prototype, both in hardware and in firmware. Even this Reva firmware I'm running right now, I think that was like the second file that Mark sent me. It was a pretty early version. It's just running 1080p, and there's some size and position items that I'll discuss when I show it running that will be addressed later. But I just wanted to show it up and running for people who are curious. This does also have the digital audio connected, which this monitor supports. This is the BenQ RL2460, aka the Evo monitor, and I picked up one of those because I thought that people that were concerned with latency would say, oh, what does it look like on the Evo monitor, because that's kind of hailed to be a faster monitor. It's not as fast as it's advertised to be, but it's still pretty darn fast, and for a TN panel it actually looks really good. So I'll just kind of show you what's going on. I've got a bare A board down here, and then Marqs HDMI board is already installed in it. Can't really see it, but the HDMI cable's coming out, just runs up into the back of the monitor here. This is just one of my CPS2 power supplies that I got wired up here. I don't even have any buttons or anything connected to it. I just wanted to power it. So I just powered it up. This thing should detect the signal here in a second. So wait for that. So there's the game. And so one thing you might notice right off is that it's kind of positioned a little bit to the right. So right now I believe in this version of firmware, in order to achieve an aspect ratio that looks kind of like 3:4, the original video is being multiplied horizontally 4 times and vertically 5 times. Because if you look at CPS2 stuff in an emulator, it looks really wide. So if you want it to look like a 4:3 aspect ratio, you can't multiply it 1:1. You have to do some fiddly stuff to get it to look more like a 4:3 aspect ratio. Also, you notice the top and the bottom are cut off. Some of that I believe is overscan, and then some of it is also due to the multiplication. We're losing at least 4 of the original scan lines from the original video, just due to the multiplication. And so Marqs and I have discussed doing kind of like a roll in and a roll out, to where the first few scan lines won't be multiplied 5 times like the rest of the image. So it'll kind of look like there's a little bit of like the edges are rolled up a little bit on the top and bottom. So you won't lose any graphics, they'll just be compressed a little bit. And that's kind of a nice compromise, to where you're not losing the graphics, but you still fit the full image into a 1080p frame. And so right now this is running 1080p, and the black bars, I think that's why it's positioned to the right a little bit, is the black bars just need some adjusting. So that's just the way that it is in this firmware rev. Let me get the audio going here. Pardon my clumsy navigation of this menu here. Let's see here. Get to the audio. Like I said, I just got this monitor today, so I'm still learning the menus to some degree. Let's do this. Let's go off. So we got the digital audio running, and that's right off the HDMI, so some nice crispy digital audio. One thing that will be different is that the volume buttons on the A board will not control the digital audio, because that's coming right off the electronics inside before it goes through the volume adjustment stuff, and that's all analog. The analog audio will be controlled by some volume stuff inside, but the digital audio will not. So you have to use your TV to adjust that volume, which is not a big deal, but that's just something of note. So if somebody's mashing on the volume buttons and wondering why the audio is not changing, if they're running over HDMI, it's that's why. So it's running here, and like I said, this is my first experience with this monitor. I think it looks great. I don't know how well it's coming through in this video, but there's no blurring. The colors look excellent. It is a TN panel, so it's not going to look as good as like an IPS or some of the others. When you go to the side, a TN panel, this doesn't look awful, but it's not going to look as good as it will on an IPS, but it's not too bad. Also of note, for people who want to use this this RL2460 with this kit, it has been advertised as a 1 millisecond response time, and really that's kind of cheating or misleading. So really the 1 millisecond response time is only going to apply to, you know, maybe the first few scan lines, because it really is painting the screen, which takes time. So the first few scan lines are going to be in like the 1 millisecond range. Once you get towards the middle of the screen, it's going to be, you know, maybe in like the 10 millisecond range here, and then maybe in like the 16 or 17 millisecond range here. Like if you look up on displaylag.com, you can see actual test results for how long it takes to update the entire screen. So it's safe to say that the full screen should be updated, you know, close to a frame. But if you want to average out the response of all the scan lines, you're looking at, you know, probably around 10 milliseconds. So it's still a pretty fast display. And obviously you're going to have to compromise. If you're not going to use a CRT, then there's going to be some compromise there. So for what I'm seeing right now, it looks pretty darn good. So I'll do another video with future firmware to show some of the features and whatnot, but I just wanted to show it running. Thanks.